The year 2020 has been a year of change. Global changes have included COVID-19 pandemic, which has resulted in us all having to change our ways, especially with traveling on a global scale. Cutting down air traffic has bound many to their place when the regulations came. The world is not as small or open anymore as it used to be. On a regional scale, there have been wildfires and other natural catastrophes. In societies, some people have demanded rights that they should have by default, more visibly than in years, and there have been demonstrations and confrontations in many places around the world. Individually, people have also gone through changes. Some have lost or quit their job, some found a new one. Some have faced economic challenges and some have overcome them. Relatives, family members and friends have passed away and babies have been born. Relationships have been broken and new have been formed. We haven't been able to see some people important to us physically, but we've been able to connect to them and many others via technology. Children have had to do learning outside of school context and stay away from their important social groups. Adults have had to learn working from home, some meanwhile helping their children in education. We all have faced changes of some kind this year, big or small. We face changes normally also, but this year it has been more rapid, more serious and more visible, and more in number and ways. My name is Jani Kontkanen and you are listening to Mitä pelataan podcast. This series is called Paragons of Change. It's a series of interviews with people from board gaming sphere whom I've noticed going through changes in recent times. We talk about change and what they have changed in their lives. By default, we do not claim we state facts. We only talk from our own points of view and our opinions. As the discussion might take a negative note at times, we try to finish with a positive, by giving you a top 9 list of games. The topic of the list has been chosen by the guest, and we will have a battle of the lists after the episode airs in my social media channels. You, dear listener, are encouraged to comment and vote on the lists to see which one of us did better. The award is pride and fame among the small listener base this podcast has. Now, let's invite our Paragon for today. Today in the Paragons of Change series, we have our 6th guest, Mike. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here. Happy to be here. The 6th guest. I don't know if there's any kind of special significance with being the 6th guest. You're not quite the 5th guest. You're not the 10th guest. But I'll take what I can get. 6th guest is fine.
You were the 6th one in order that we are able to arrange time, so that's what it means.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You're actually directly after another Florida retiree, Stephen Bonacor. He was the 5th one, so...
Oh, I got to tell you, if I had known that was the case, I'm not sure that I could have agreed to come on. If I've got to follow, if I've got to follow the Podfather of gaming as he insists on being called now, but yes, no, it's that's perfectly fine. I look forward to hearing that episode as well.
It was quite fine, at least in my opinion. We talked about how Florida is, but I will ask the same questions from you because that was an interesting topic.
Okay.
And you haven't heard it yet, so you don't know what he said.
I have no idea what he said. So yeah, you can hit me with that, no problem.
By the way, if people don't know who you are and what do you do, who are you and what do you do in the board game field?
Well, my name is Mike DiLisio, and for almost a year, not quite a year, I work full-time for the Dice Tower, which is primarily a YouTube channel, also a podcast network with a number of different podcasts that are a part of it, including one that I do. I do a podcast with Dan Hughes called Sporadically Bored with Mike and Dan. So I do that, and then I work full-time, like I said, with Dice Tower. I do video editing and content creation. I tend to mostly do solo-based reviews for the channel, although I've done others as well, and I do a lot of live stream shows with them as well. So that's what I do.
You said that you worked there for about a year. Mm-hmm. What did you do before? You were a teacher in a high school and something like that, right?
Yes, that's correct. I was a high school teacher for almost 20 years, and I was living in Indiana at the time, which is, kind of the Midwest of the United States. And although I was not from Indiana, I had been living there for a pretty good period of time and teaching in a high school, social studies, so history, sociology, things along those lines. And, while I was doing that, I was also creating my own board game content on my own YouTube channel called Solo Mode Games, which were almost exclusively playthroughs of solo games. But I also did segments on Board Game Breakfast for Dice Tower, and that's how I kind of got in with them. I also would work at their booths at multiple conventions, and that's how I got to know Tom primarily, was through working at the Dice Tower booth at conventions. So when an opportunity arose there at the Dice Tower, I kind of put my hat in the ring and was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity.
What made you decide this way? I was listening to Sporadically Pod, and you were saying that you are getting bored with the job, and I knew that you're going to apply for Sam's spot. Maybe you somehow made him move away from there so you get the spot. I was certain that you were saying that I have some new plans and such. I was certain that you will go to Sam's spot because you are a perfect match, in my opinion, to that team, and it's very good to have you there, in my opinion.
Well, that's remarkably kind. I appreciate that. The truth is, and I know that this just sounds like it's being, diplomatic, but the truth is that I didn't take Sam's spot. What I do is pretty significantly different than what Sam was doing. I do, quite a bit more video editing work than, Sam was mostly focused on doing his own reviews on the channel, and also, he was a big part of the top 10s and things along those lines. And so while it's really gratifying and flattering to hear that people have enjoyed what I've brought, it really isn't a replacement of Sam type of a thing. But what made me do it was, I don't know, it was a big risk. It was a big kind of leap of faith that I took, and it was frightening, and I didn't, know if it was going to work, and I didn't know how I was going to be received at all at the Dice Tower, both mostly by the audience, because the core group of Dice Tower people I had gotten to know at least pretty well through interacting with them at conventions. Like, I already knew Z relatively well. I already knew Tom relatively well. I already knew Kenny relatively well. I already knew Roy relatively well. And they are the kind of the core group. And so I wasn't as worried about kind of getting along with them. I was more worried about how am I going to be accepted, because I knew there was going to be kind of this perception of, oh, Mike is taking that spot, which is, again, it's just not the case. And anyone who's watched will kind of see that that's not the case. I'm not doing what Sam did before. I'm doing something different. But what I think is great is that Tom is very good at a lot of things, one of which is keeping things fresh on the channel. And I think he's done a really good job of pivoting in a number of ways. He pivoted when Sam decided to take on a different opportunity. He pivoted when the coronavirus hit, and he started things like the daily chats, and we've since moved from those to different shows. But it's been interesting, and this for my first kind of year at the Dice Tower, it's not been a traditional year, because normally the Dice Tower works somewhat on a convention cycle, right? I mean, I would have in a normal year, I would have gone to probably 5 or 6 conventions by now. And that's not happening. And so we've had to kind of pivot and adjust. And we've done a lot more live streaming. And we've done a lot more of the virtual events that kind of, it's never going to take over. It's never going to replace those things. But hopefully it helps alleviate some of the lack of interaction that you would get. So I don't know if I answered your question, Yanni. I guess it was just, I took a chance, and, I'm still trying my best to find my place.
Yeah, you answered it quite well. And actually, I think it works well that there are 2 video editors, because you and Roy both are doing that job. I think it really makes it easier for especially Tom to make some content.
Absolutely.
Compared to earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a pretty clear distribution of labor. I mean, there are particular shows and aspects that, Roy is the main video editor. He's got the bulk of the video editing work because he does all of Tom's reviews in addition to a number of other things. And, and I've got my particular things. I do the Monday board game breakfast. I do the werewolf shows now. I do the unboxing channel. So we each kind of have our roles. And like I said, Tom has new ideas, and the team will come up with new ideas, and those just get assigned to whoever is best equipped to take on more at that particular time. So, yeah, having two video editors is essential, I would say, at this point, to put the amount of content that we put up.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount, and I think it works well what you're doing now in the channel.
I appreciate that.
What was the hardest thing for you to leave behind in the teaching job? You were teaching 20 years, and I heard from Board Game Snobs that you were already coming to a point that you either quit teaching or do something else, and you didn't want to become like the teacher that feels that the teaching is stale.
Right.
Was it in? I might be mixing with sporadically, but anyway. However, I heard your voice this week.
Right.
Somewhere. I hope it wasn't in a dream. But what was the hardest thing to leave behind, work-wise?
Yeah, no, I think it was on the Snobs. Although that whole experience was a fever dream, I'm still trying to recover from that. But yeah, I think what it was that I knew that I had not gotten to a point where I was burned out yet. That's a big burnout is something that happens in or can happen in any career. But I think there are certain careers that are more. It's more likely for something like that to happen, and teaching is one of them. And I'd seen the signs, and I had also worked with a number of people that had gone on probably 5-10 years longer than they should have. And I saw how it affected them, and I saw how it affected their classroom, and I saw how it affected the students that had to deal with that burnout every day. And so I was being very, I guess I was trying to be very observant about my own feelings, my own behavior, and I knew that I had not reached that point yet, but I was getting close, and I was just convinced that I wasn't going to allow myself to get there. And so the hardest thing, the biggest thing that I missed was kind of this aspect of, well, first of all, there's a bit of routine. There's a bit of a comfort level in that routine. Like, I felt like I had achieved a level of mastery. That's probably the biggest thing that I miss. I felt like I had achieved a level of mastery in my job. I felt like I had gotten to the point where there was very little that was going to trip me up. Almost anything that somebody threw at me, I felt like I either had dealt with it before or I had enough of a grasp of what I was doing that I could devote enough energy to that. And a lot of other things were kind of on cruise control, that they weren't on cruise control in the first 5 years of teaching, where every day is this huge learning curve. So when I came to the Dice Tower, I felt like I was starting at zero, and there was a massive, massive learning curve, and there still is, Yanni. I mean, every single day I'm having to learn something new. I'm having to teach either teach myself something new, or I'm having to go to Roy or Tom or somebody to kind of build up my my skill level and my skill set. And so that's the biggest thing I miss is I don't at this point feel a level of mastery of what my work is, especially on the video editing end. I came into it and I was honest with Tom about this. I didn't have a huge background in that. But as he was just, his thing was, look, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to put in the work, which I feel like I have been, I hope I have been, then everything was going to be fine. And so that's still where I'm at. I'm still a year in, but I feel like I have so much more to learn.
How about, you said that you reached the level where you might become burnout and you reached the level of mastery. How about if you had to make the decision right now? You would have had half a year of Corona and everything, very interesting things for the teaching also. Would you still feel that you had the mastery in the work if you had to do this distance teaching? Do you think that it would have made you more refreshed in the work? I totally understand what you say about the burnout thing, and especially teachers having that, and it's not good for the kids if the teachers are burnt out because you see the motivation of a teacher and it sticks to you.
Exactly.
And that's not good.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question. I have talked to current teachers, as they're kind of dealing with this situation. And what's really interesting was that at the school that I was teaching at, on a completely unrelated note that had nothing to do with coronavirus, because that wasn't a thing yet, they had begun training all of the staff on distance learning. But it was related to snow days, which in the Midwest is very much a thing. And so the idea was, if you can have a virtual learning environment already established, when the kids can't come to school because of inclement weather, you can still teach and you don't lose those days, or you don't have to add days on to the end of the school year. So I don't think that it would have been an issue of mastery, because I feel like I know exactly what I would have done in a virtual learning environment. And I also think that if anything, I would have had a leg up because I was already making videos. I was making board game videos. True. So I have no, I didn't have any discomfort with the idea of being in front of a camera and teaching, because to some extent, when you're doing a playthrough, you're doing teaching, right? Yeah, you're doing it in a less structured way, in a more informal way. But that aspect of things don't worry me on a mastery level. How they do worry me is that I know that is not an optimal way to learn for a lot of students. And so I feel like teachers right now are going from an already challenging job to a remarkably difficult job, because there are some teachers that are having to do 100% virtual, okay, which is its own set of challenges. Then there are other teachers that have all of their kids back in the classroom, which has a now additional set of challenges to, take coronavirus out of the mix. It's a challenging job, but now add that to it, it's even more challenging. Then there are other teachers that are having to do a combination of both, where they've got, maybe 30% of their students in the classroom, 70% of their students virtual. To me, that's a nightmare scenario. Could I have done it? Absolutely. But that would be really, the amount of additional work and effort and struggle and challenges that a teacher would have to face in a hybrid scenario like that are hard to even vocalize. So I don't know that it would have helped with the burnout. I think it may have added a sense of, okay, you have to bear down, and you have to focus, and you have to redouble your efforts. And certainly there would be no sense of complacency at that point. But I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have kind of reignited an interest in what I was doing. I hadn't lost my interest at that point. I just knew that the warning signs were there.
What was the hardest thing to leave behind otherwise than work?
Well, there were people that are important to me in that part of the world, and that's the hardest thing to leave behind is trying to maintain relationships with distance. That's very difficult to do. So because really the only person that came down here was my wife. Now, obviously, that's an extremely significant and important person to me, but there are other important people that are still in Indiana. But that being said, I also have important people in my life in many other parts of the country as well. I have people in California and Nevada and New York. And so, it can be done, but it just means that I have to be more diligent than ever in trying to keep those relationships going. And that can be challenging from a distance, and especially at a time like now where people's nerves are kind of fraught and there's other challenges.
Are there any things that you were happy to leave behind?
Yes, I will say that. There are things I was happy to leave behind.
Care to say some?
Sure. I want to preface this by saying that there are good and bad things, and I do mean this. There are good and bad things in everywhere that I've lived. Now, I am not a world traveler. I've never lived outside of the United States, and I envy people that have lived for significant periods of times in other cultures. So there are good and bad things everywhere I've lived. But in Indiana, the things that I will not miss are the winters. I was never a fan of the extreme cold and the ice. Even the snow which a lot of people love the snow, to me was nothing more than a novelty. And as long as, if it had snowed one day a year, it would have been great. But it didn't snow one day a year. It snowed significantly more than that. So I don't miss that. I don't.
How cold is extreme cold?
Well, you're going to have to convert it. You're on the Celsius system, I assume. Yes.
Yes, of course, like rest of the world.
No, not like the rest of the world, sir. Extreme cold, it would get below 0 Fahrenheit. It would get into the negative degrees Fahrenheit, not on a regular basis, but I would say in the winter. So for a number of months, it would be, in and around the 30 degrees or below in that region. Let's say 40 degrees and below Fahrenheit. And you'll have to do that conversion for me. But cold.
Zero
and it could. What's that?
0 Fahrenheit is minus 18 degrees.
Okay.
It's like normal winter day here.
See, now that's
we
true.
Have minus 30 degrees, so.
Now that's true. I'm speaking to somebody that you're not. This is not going to. You're not going to be impressed by these numbers by any means. But yeah. I don't miss that, and so honestly, although I would love to know what area specifically, if you're comfortable in saying this, what area specifically do you live in?
In Eastern Finland.
Okay, Eastern Finland.
So we have 4 full seasons. All of them are about 3 months. So it's I really enjoy it that we have all the seasons here.
Okay. Well, that is...
Now we have beautiful autumn. Everywhere is yellow and red, and it's like the trees are burning.
Yeah. And that is gorgeous.
It looks really fantastic.
And we don't get that here, and that is something that I will miss, is the autumn, because that's my favorite. That is my favorite season of the year, and there's not seasons as such in Florida, and there weren't really seasons as such in California, which is where I was born and raised. So, while I would love to visit, your region of the world, because I also have some familial connections, at least to that general region. My mother's side of the family is from Norway. I'd love to visit. I don't know that I would like to live there just because I think the weather would be tough. But I don't know. I'd be open to anything. So anyway, I've completely lost my train of thought. I do this all the time.
We have warm houses here, so it's not bad in the winter. It's actually really good that you're in minus 30 degrees outside. Then you come inside, and inside is 25 if you warm with the wood or something. Yeah. So the isolation in houses is so good here that it's not even a problem at all here.
So you don't dread having to go outside to get groceries or to do anything, because I tell you, when it's that cold, I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to chip the ice off my car. I don't want to deal with the wet and the slush, and it just, to me, I didn't grow up in it. And I think that may have something to do with it. That was not something that I grew up in a extremely warm climate. And so to me, that was a bit of a culture shock, and it wasn't one that I particularly enjoyed. Now, my kids were born and raised in that region, and I know especially my youngest son loves the winter and loves the sun and all that, or excuse me, the snow. But to me, that was never anything that I necessarily enjoyed. I would much prefer being at a beach. I would much prefer this kind of climate, the kind of tropical climate, or the I don't know if I love the desert climate, although I've lived in it. It's just more familiar and comfortable to me than the extreme cold. So I won't miss that. I won't miss some of the, and I want to be very careful here, I won't miss some of the, I don't know how to put it, Yanni, while trying to be diplomatic.
People?
Well, yeah, there were just some cultural elements of the Midwest, of that area of the Midwest, that I didn't particularly love. I grew up in a very kind of a diverse area, diverse background. I'm not saying that it's completely homogenous there, but it is more so than in other areas that I've lived. And so there were some mindsets that I came across that I didn't particularly enjoy. Although I would say it got better the longer I lived there. So anyway, those are some things I won't miss.
All right. Now I have to ask, you talked about it in the Board Game Snobs podcast also. I never knew it. But you have also been a neurotic dancer in a club.
Did you say neurotic dancer?
Yes, what is neurotic dancing and how it is done? Can you tell me?
I got to tell you, I think you're going to have to ask Jerry about this because this is something that, like many, many things on the Board Game Snobs podcast, came solely and completely from his twisted and demented mind. So the idea of me being a professional dancer in any capacity is hilarious to me because I'm not a good dancer. I'm very, very self-conscious about it, more so than I should be, I think. So the idea of me making a living at dancing is hilarious. But that was a funny idea. I think if I had to make a living at doing any type of dancing, neurotic, erotic, otherwise, I would be destitute because nobody's going to be paying money to see me dance.
Not even in Florida.
Not even in Florida. No, especially now at my advanced years. I mean, not that in my earlier years I necessarily, would have been a better candidate for that. Because if anything, as I've gotten older, my eyesight has gone down for sure. And I'm maybe a little bit slower on the uptake than I used to be. But I'm actually in better shape than I was at many points in my life. So I guess I'd be closer to what they're looking for on the dance floor there. Although still not anywhere near what people want. But still can't dance. Can't dance, Yanni. It's just not in me.
Florida is represented, at least in the series. Like, we are now watching Seinfeld from the beginning. We are in the end of third season now with the wife. And they have the parents in Florida. And it seems that there are these communities of elderly people that they just enter each other's houses and they decide everything together. And I heard in Sporadically Bored how difficult it was to get a flat or apartment in Florida.
Yes.
Is it like that? Is it like a retirement heaven that when you retire you have to go to Florida?
Well, first of all, I've said this before. I can't consider myself any type of an expert or an authority on Florida, as I've been here for such a short period of time. But I'll tell you that in the United States in general, that kind of I'm struggling for the word. That perception is well known. Okay, there's kind of this idea that you have what are called snowbirds. I don't know if have you heard that term before?
No, I don't.
Okay, so a snowbird is, generally speaking, a retired person or people who lived in an area of the world that has rough winters. A lot of times you're thinking of mostly the Northeast. So kind of the New England states, New York, New Jersey, where Bonacore basically came from. And what snowbirds would do is after they would retire, they would have a place in Florida, and they might stay up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, whatever the case may be, during the summer months where it's remarkably hot down here. But then in the winter months where it would get cold there, they would travel down. And so they would be kind of, they would live in two different areas during different times of the year. And so that is a thing. That very much is a thing. But you also do have a large number of people that are elderly, they're of retired years and beyond, that have just moved to Florida because they don't want to deal with the weather anymore in whatever area that was inclement that they were living in before. So I have seen some of that. I have seen some evidence of that. I'm also fascinated that you said you're in season 3 of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
And you haven't seen
one episode
any of the other seasons?
No. We watched them when we were young, but we don't remember either one of us.
Okay. Well, you've got so much joy ahead of you, I got to tell you. Seinfeld is probably my favorite TV show of all time. So, there's definitely a culture of retired people that have come down to Florida. There's no two ways about it. And also Florida, like the state that I grew up in, California, has very different cultures depending on which part of the state you're in. The Panhandle is much more of kind of like a deep South, which is odd because it's the northern part of the state, but it has more of the culture of the deep South, like, Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana. And then the extreme south part of Florida where I'm at has more of the kind of the Cuban culture and things along those lines. And then in the mid part of the state has a completely different culture that I still don't really know much about. So there's a whole lot going on in Florida.
Yeah. We have these snowbirds also here, if that's the term. The Finnish people, when they retire, they move to Spain or Portugal now. It's trendy. And there's actually in Fuengirola, it's a city in the like very south, in the Costa del Sol area in Spain, and there's a Finnish neighborhood. Because Finns have been running away there for tens of years.
Wow.
So there's a huge community there.
Yeah,
so we have them too.
It makes sense. Yeah, that snowbirds term is that's probably just an American thing, but I would imagine that idea is something that happens around the world.
Yeah, we have them also, mostly because of the winters, and the elderly people don't want to spend the winters here, especially if they are in south of Finland, because it might snow one day, the next day there might be 10 centimeters of wet snow, and then it might freeze, and it's really bad there in the winter. At sometimes, but here we have proper snow, so I'm fine with this. I would hate the southern Finland also.
Proper snow, meaning that it snows all the time and the snow never goes away. That's the proper snow?
It stays at least 3 months.
Okay, and you don't get, by the end of that 3 months, towards the end of that 3 months, are you over it at least? Are you at the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready for this to go away now? Or do you just love the snow? Are you somebody that'd be happy with more snow?
No, 3 months is enough, let's say. As long as it goes away quickly and I don't have to struggle with the wet snow. It's
Got
fine.
it. Yeah, the wet snow is the worst.
Yeah, it's the worst, really. And we don't really have any sun here either in Christmas time. There's maybe 4 hours of sunlight, so that's very interesting. If there wasn't snow, we would be in total darkness here, and that would be bad. Novembers are really bad here and very depressing if there's no snow.
Yeah,
because it's just black.
I hadn't considered that. Now, here's another question. Although I'm sorry, I'm a guest on your podcast. I'm going into my asking questions mode. I think I've mentioned this before, maybe on Sporadically Bored, but there's this thing where you can kind of tell the importance of something in a particular culture by the number of ways that it's expressed in their language. And so how many are, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but do you have a lot of different words for snow in the Finnish language? For us, we've got snow, we've got slush, which would be like the wet snow. And then beyond that, I don't know that we've even got another word for snow.
We have,
at least not one that I can think of off the top of my head. Do you have multiple words for the different kind of states of snow and viscosities of snow and all this type of stuff?
Yes, the different stages, and if it's hard snow, or if it's fresh snow, or if it's wet snow, or like a heavy snow, or zero temperature snow that you can make a snowman out of. And also for most weather things we have hundreds of sayings, so everything different with the weather. We love talking about weather because we don't know how to talk about anything else here. We just, when we see a stranger, we say that it's a nice weather today, right? And the other one says yep, and that's it. Well, at least that's kind of like a stereotypical Finnish person, but I'm in North Karelia, so we are a bit more talkative than Finns in general.
Gotcha. Yeah, that kind of stoicism is kind of a so that's true. That kind of idea of the stoic Northern European, Scandinavian cultures. I mean that is true. That's not overblown.
No, not really. But Swedes are not like that. Swedes are just, they know everything and they want to represent themselves that way. But that's another discussion.
Yes.
It's about the lovely neighbors in the West.
Correct.
But I'm almost at the Russian border, actually. You're a history teacher, I have to say. I'm living exactly where this, you know about Second World War, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So during the war, Finland had this line at the east of Finland that went for like 1,000 kilometers from the Lapland to the south.
Okay.
I'm living next to that.
Really?
The stones from that border is 200 meters from my house, actually.
Is that right?
And there's a museum. There's a museum where there is a real bunker where we were supposed to stop the enemy's advance if they came this far, but they didn't come this far from this point in Finland. So it's a quite historical place.
Yeah, no kidding. You're living. You kind of have that living remembrance right there. That's pretty cool.
And the what are they called? These huge rocks that are supposed to block the tanks. They are still in place, and you are not allowed to move them. They are in a way saved here. They go along the coastline there, next to the lake.
Now, are they?
It's actually quite cool.
Do they keep them there just kind of as a sign of respect and remembrance of that time period in history and Finland's role in it?
Yeah, it's like this was the last line of defense.
Yeah.
Some have been moved here, but they're very much around this suburb where we live in. There are not that many people. There's maybe 2,000-3,000 people living in this suburb where we live. But those stones are still in lines here where they were, and they are just part of the area.
Interesting. And
it's actually quite interesting.
What's the nearest large city that you live by?
We live in Joensuu city. It's the largest.
Okay.
There's 75,000 people in this municipality.
Interesting. Okay.
It's large enough. It's the capital of North Karelia, so it's quite fine place. Yeah. I wouldn't move away if I didn't have to.
Gotcha. Well, I hope you don't have to then, Yanni. I'd like you to stay where you want to be. That's my hope for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, I guess. How about the whole year? It has been colored by coronavirus, like we all know. And how has it been visible in where you live in Florida? And is the situation getting any better there, or is it getting worse or staying the same?
Yeah, so it's interesting. First of all, here's another thing that I don't know if you had a similar situation. I don't know if this is a cultural thing. I mean, so I'm not even sure if this is like America, as it relates to Finland, or if it's just cultural things. But I had a hard time, first of all, talking about the coronavirus in the first few months of it. I felt like it was almost something that...
Why?
That's a great... I felt like it was something that it was like almost too sensitive of a topic. Yeah. And so I don't know if you sensed that at all in and around you. And I'm not speaking for America. I want to make that clear. I just know that I personally, and many of the people that were around me, were really kind of hesitant to talk about it because it was almost taboo, maybe, but just more of too sensitive of a topic, right? And so that has changed.
It's actually quite scary that a small virus can come and ruin everyone's lives.
Absolutely. But it is also interesting too now where it has become something that is... I don't really love the phrase "the new normal." I don't know if there's any analogous thing in your language, but that's things that are getting thrown around here a lot. Is we're living in the new normal. Well, I don't necessarily accept that, and I don't love that phrase, but I get it. But one thing is, the discussion of it has become normalized, and you're seeing it discussed in commercials and in popular culture, and you're even seeing people joke about it now. And so there's this idea that as it's gone on, although it's certainly something that has caused a tremendous amount of grief to the people who have loved ones who have been lost or even sickened by it. There is also this idea that, look, this is something that is global. It's universal. We're all dealing with it, and therefore it becomes something that we can now kind of discuss. And so that's one thing that's been interesting. But as the year has gone on, Florida, for at least this area of Florida, a few months back, I would say maybe 4 or 5 months back, was one of the hot zones in the United States, and therefore one of the hot zones in the world. The area that I was living was a very, very, very high rate of new cases every day. And let me tell you, you had to go out of your way to not hear that on an hourly basis. You had to basically disconnect from anything to not hear that constantly. But as time has gone on, and as we are right now, Florida is actually, especially, I don't want to say especially, but even in the region that we're in extreme southern Florida, is not one of the hot spots. And they are reopening quite a bit. Now, people are going to debate whether it's reopening too soon, too fast, too much. I'm not even going to get into that. Mask wearing is still pretty much standard in indoors and in areas where there are, groups of people. So that still is being seen. But I do think, just based on what I'm seeing anecdotally, more people are going out, more people are going to restaurants, more people are going to grocery stores. Because I'll tell you what I saw a few months ago was when I would go to a grocery store, you would see a huge amount of people that were doing the mobile shopping for others, right? The grocery delivery services. I basically would see more of them than actually people that were shopping for themselves. And I'm seeing less of that now. Although I'm still seeing it, I'm seeing less of it now. So I do think that right now things are kind of slowing down a bit. Now, we've also, obviously, have seen around the world that there are second waves that are happening, and areas where they were getting almost no new cases now are getting more again. And there's this idea of, we let our guard down too soon, and we, kind of allowed ourselves to get back to where we were before. And so, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an immunovirologist, none of those things, and I don't pretend to be by any means, but I just kind of try to be observant of what I see around me.
It's the same here. I think we didn't take restrictions early enough this autumn, because we've now as a country, we've let it go higher and higher, the numbers. Now we are already in higher numbers than in April. And in April we had already been more than 2 weeks on lockdown. And you asked that how it is here about this, talking about it. I think the government and everything has been quite open, and it has been in media so much that it becomes boring, and it's possible to talk with friends, but it's a bit of a taboo. If you get the coronavirus, you don't say that you have it.
Oh, interesting. It
feels like that, because people are putting stamps on the others, especially in a small place.
Sure.
If there's 2 cases and someone knows who those 2 are, they are blaming them, because all the coronas that came here came from traveling.
Got it.
The people who went on this spring holiday to ski somewhere in Austria or to Italy, they brought them back here.
I got it.
And it's really easy here to keep the distances, because we have lots of space. If we want to keep distances, we know how to keep distances.
Sure.
Because we are like that as a country. But
right.
Now I don't know how this autumn will go. Maybe we will be in lockdown in Christmas, and that's not good. Actually.
Yeah. No, of course not.
It's so boring in the winter.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's really interesting. I guess I hadn't considered that. Yeah, that there's going to be a much bigger stigma there, because, like you said, if you got it, you know that it came out here around here. If someone were to contract the coronavirus, it could be, they went shopping, or they got gasoline for their vehicle, or, you know what I mean? There's just not that same, at least speaking for myself, I don't sense that same stigma. I sense more of that poor person, they got unlucky. You know what I mean? Because there, you'll hear stories of people that were like, hey, look, I wore a mask everywhere I went. I was always careful and I still got it. That's a pretty common narrative that you hear, is that anybody can get it. You try to be as careful as you can. You try to be as prudent as you can, but you can't, there's no way other than unless you just stay in your house 24/7, you're taking some type of risk. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. In the city where I'm at currently, we had 16 cases all spring, then 2 in the summer, and now we are at 41. In 2 weeks, it doubled.
Wow.
And that's interesting. Just someone brought it from somewhere, from a trip to the main hospital here, and that's not a good thing.
No, not at all.
There's hundreds of people in quarantine, and I don't know. But luckily there's just 1 or 2 cases every day, so they all didn't get the disease. That's good. Yeah,
no, that's good. And it's all a matter of scope, right? Because I think, Florida would be over the moon thrilled if they were getting 40 cases a day. That would be like, that would be front page news. So yeah, it's all a matter of scope.
Yeah. We had, in the whole region, we had 3 cases
Wow.
between June and August, midway August.
Wow.
That's actually we did so good here. We were able to do everything without any regulations here in the summer, and it seems that when autumn came, we forgot that.
Yeah.
People came from the summer holidays and like that. But let's see how it goes.
Right.
I hope it goes well.
I do too, for everybody.
Yeah, it's been a long year.
It has.
How about because the world has been changing this year, and I think that many things have been changing in the world, and in USA some other things than in elsewhere in the world. What do you think about change? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it situational? And how does it show? If you think, let's say, globally.
Change in general. Well, I mean, I think that I think situational is a good way to put it. I do think it's situational. I think change that you have, I guess I would put it like this. Change that you have some agency over, I think is good. In other words, change that you have initiated for whatever reason, whether you feel like something in your life needs to be changed, or whether you feel like a particular, I don't know. I guess just what I'm saying is that change is situational. There are times that you have to change based off of things that you don't feel like you have a lot of agency over, and the coronavirus would be a perfect example of that. There was a lot of pushback against the change that was being requested of people because it was intrusive, and it was this and it was that, and that can cause some negative reactions and negative emotions. But change globally, I think, is inevitable, right? I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I think that on a global scale, I do get the sense that as people have become more interconnected, and I don't think you can deny that globally we've become more interconnected, both through communication, through even economics, politically, you name it. We're a more interconnected world than we were 30 or 40 years ago. And so because of that, changes tend to affect more people than they did before. And I'm thinking about things like climate change. How we all, this is just my opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else. We all have a part to play around the world in how to kind of deal with how the planet is changing. And it's hard to dispute that the polar ice caps are melting, at a pretty astonishing rate. Now, people can argue about what causes it, but you can't. I don't know how you can really argue when you see, that there's less ice there than there was before, and things along those lines. So
some people can.
Yeah, I know, and I don't. Again, I'm trying not to be. I try to be respectful of everybody's beliefs, and I may not agree.
Yeah, but come on, facts are facts. The Earth is not flat, and so on.
Well, this is true. Yeah, no, I can't get down with the flat Earth idea anyway. But I mean, I just think that's. I think that's almost so silly that I don't even understand arguing about it. But to some extent, you can almost say the same thing about climate change. I mean, it's not like most scientists say this. Every scientist says this. So I guess when you look at change on that level, I think it's interesting in that more and more people are affected by global change maybe than they were before, if that makes sense, because we're so much more interconnected.
Yes. And actually, you're the first one to bring up this climate change. I kind of missed it in a way, but yeah, also. And that's also man-made, partly at least.
Sure.
And yeah, it's a big thing.
No, absolutely. And it's also, all the indications is that it's not going to become less of a big thing. That as time goes on, there very much is a tipping point, and I sure hope we haven't reached it. But further generations, future generations, I sure hope that they have, a planet that can sustain them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that our generation is the last generation that should walk on this earth.
I sure hope not.
Yeah. They will happy history teachers in the future saying that they screwed up everything. That's why they got corona and all the different plagues at the same time. The forests were burning and the Amazon was in flames, but they didn't understand. They just still continued destroying the planet.
Yeah. Gosh, I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, hopefully not. Do you think you yourself, to go back into the personal change that you had, do you think you have changed in the process during the last year?
Absolutely. I think this has been a year where I don't want to just say it flippantly because I'd have to put more thought into it, but I would guess that this is probably in maybe the top 3 to 5 years of my life if you were to measure it in how my life has changed. There's been a huge amount of change in my life, not just geographically. That's been a big change. In my job, that's been a big change. The coronavirus has been a big change in everybody's life, so that's a significant amount of change. So this year particularly has been one of tremendous change, and time will tell how well I've navigated those changes, how well that I've kind of dealt with those changes. I hope that I'm navigating them well, and I hope that time will tell that I made as good of decisions as I could at the time. You can't tell. This is something that you have to look back 3, 5, 10 years and evaluate. While you're living it, it's really hard to be objective about how well you're doing, at least for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you expect from the future?
Well, that's a huge question. What do I expect?
You don't have to tell the whole future.
Yeah. I don't.
Some kind of
right
things that you think will be happening in the future for you or the people around you.
I hope that the future for me brings growth, personal growth, mostly. I feel like I'm at a point in my life, just at my age, where if I'm going to kind of make big things happen for me personally, whatever, professionally, whatever, I need to get on it. Because 20 years from now, I'm not going to be really in a position, maybe even 10 years from now, I'm not going to really be in a position where I might have the energy, the health, who knows? Life can bring you so many different things. So I kind of feel like I'm at a point where I need to grow. I need to try to determine what my areas of strength are and utilize those strengths to the best of my ability. I'm being very vague, Yanni, because I don't have a good specific answer. Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm at a point in my life where things have changed a lot and I need to be focusing on my personal growth.
Yeah, you don't have to give details if you don't know about.
Yeah, I just don't have them.
Is there anything better than personal growth for yourself? I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's the best thing you can do.
Right.
In any case.
Yeah, you may have a point there, and it's something that I probably should have been focused on earlier. But I got, I was so caught up. I'm really good at living in the present, at living in the moment. Right. That's something that comes very naturally to me, is kind of living in the present. I'm not good at all about thinking about the future. I'm not good at planning for the future. I'm not good at projecting 5 to 10 years out. And that's gotten me into some trouble in the past. And so I'm trying to be better about that. And thankfully, I'm around some people, my wife specifically, who is very focused on future goals and planning. And so I'm trying to tap into that a bit more, even though I don't feel that it's an area of strength for me.
Yeah, but maybe you can practice
this
if you don't figure out anything else.
Exactly right.
Learn.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. No, this is, I hope I'm thinking back to what, I didn't get to listen to all of Richard's episode with you, and I haven't heard some of the other ones yet, but I feel like I'm being, I apologize if you were looking for anything that resembled humor or entertainment value, because I've given you neither of those things, Yanni. I've been a wet sponge. I have been nothing but dour, and boy, this is. I hope that your listeners get something out of this.
But at least you're not wet snow. That would be
this
bad.
Is true.
Or wet bread, if we ask C. Garcia. But actually, I wanted to say, now you brought it up, I wanted to say that you have one of the best senses of humor, especially in the podcasting world. I really like your sense of humor and your jokes. It's a bit pity that people don't get half of them, especially those dirty puns that you make in some occasions.
Yeah.
But
well, I appreciate that. Maybe I've got more of a Finnish sense of humor. I don't know.
Yeah, or a teacher sense of humor also.
There is that as well. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, but I really like. There are some other people who have also very good dry jokes, but the other people don't understand them. I'm wondering, I'm laughing alone, and the others don't. But that's how it is.
Yeah, I like to slide my jokes in. I try not to be obvious about, I'll just kind of slip them in there really quickly, and if you catch them, you catch them, and if you don't, you don't.
Yes. That's the best sense of humor, in my opinion, at least.
I appreciate it.
Do you have anything else to add to this discussion?
I don't know if I've added anything to this discussion this whole time, Yanni. I honestly, if I've given you anything, I'll be happy to add more. But no, I think that this is an interesting area of discourse. I think it's really cool that you have kind of chosen this as a topic. This is a time of great change for, I think, everybody, and sometimes it takes events like this, if you're going to try to find silver linings out of difficult times like the coronavirus. If there's one of the silver linings you might find is that it might cause people to maybe reevaluate what's important to them, and maybe what their purpose is and things along those lines. And so it's really interesting that you're talking to people about change right now, because it's a especially important time to be talking about that.
I thought it would be too early in the spring, but during the summer I saw some people quitting jobs and changing things,
Sure.
and I thought that would it be an interesting topic for a series. Then I was observing for a while, and then I thought that, okay, now there's many that I can make some kind of series, and let's try.
Yeah.
And everyone has said yes so far, but not all have said that they can do it right away.
Sure. Yeah, that's the other aspect of right now, is that scheduling is even more difficult than it used to be.
Yeah. There's only Eric Lang who I haven't been able to reach, because that would have been interesting to ask that why did he quit the Simon stuff and went into politics or to this different road, but I can't seem to reach him. He's not reading his messages in Facebook or Twitter, but let's see.
Yes.
Maybe I catch him.
I've got to imagine he's being approached for a lot of different interview requests, but hey, I wish you the best of luck. That would be interesting.
Yeah. And maybe for another reason he's been approached a lot. But
who knows? Who knows?
We have prepared a top 9 list for this episode, and you chose the topic.
Prepared might be a little strong of a word in my case. Prepared, I think, kind of infers a little bit of effort. No, I did choose the topic, and I apologize. I know this was a difficult topic for you.
Yes. So, what was the topic of the list?
So, I kind of went back and forth with different ideas. I originally was thinking of like a top 9 of a particular designer, but then when I talked to you about that, you said that you're not really designer focused, which I think that's an interesting area of discourse at some point to talk about. I think some people, are interested in particular designers or publishers or things, and so since that didn't work, I started to think about thematically what might be interesting, and I wanted to do something off the beaten path a little bit. A particular type of theme. There's a lot of them that appeal to me, but one that struck out was things that are dealing with water. Okay, so in my mind, and you and I didn't discuss this very much, so I'll be very interested to see how we approached this theme. In my mind, I was thinking of things like you could go so many directions. You could say, okay, all pirate games could be, water-based. You can be, thinking about like submarine games. It could be based with water. And all of those are valid. As a matter of fact, I do think I have one pirate game on my list. But what I tried to do instead was think about games where the main environment was the water or is the water. And whether that was connected thematically at all, oftentimes it's not. Wasn't as important to me when I think of the game, I think of it as a game that is based in and around or under water. So that's what I went with.
I went a bit similar way. I made this short list and I have this Madeira, Nippon, Cooper Island, Navigador, this kind of games. You said water, ocean or sea, but I ranked my games according to how much it feels to me that you are dealing with sea in some way, or water, or ocean, or somehow otherwise.
Okay.
That the water is not just one part of the game, but it's a somehow crucial part of the game. And I didn't rank them according to which one is the best game. I ranked them in a way that which uses the theming the best, maybe. And my first is a bit of a cheat, but you'll hear it very soon.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with cheating. I mean, bring it on. I mean, we do the best we can. And like I said, I know I made a difficult topic for you. So I appreciate you working with me on this.
It was difficult to limit it or somehow to what to throw away, because there are so many things like Lewis and Clark has a river, you move all the way across the river. That would have been fine, but in my opinion, it's just the way where you move. Same with Razas of the Ganges. Both are good games, but is it water?
Yeah,
not enough.
Exactly. Well, that's why I'm going to be interested to hear what your how you approached this.
Well, it was water, sea, or ocean.
Okay, that's fair enough.
No rivers or lakes. No rivers or lakes, because that was not in the topic.
Right, yeah, I can see that, yep.
You said you didn't listen to the Richard episode yet.
Not all of it.
Richard began this trend that the guest has to pretend to be Eric Summerer.
Oh.
Or rather an announcer. So you get to announce the number that we go into and see if you get his spot as well.
Okay.
There have been some very good and some not so good.
Got it.
along the way, but everyone has tried their best and it has been quite good. So we go 998877. You can begin.
Okay, here we go.
Is it fun?
Yeah, let's make it happen. All right, here we go.
Yep.
And now, wait, no, does he just say, no, he doesn't say and now. That's only for number one. Okay, here we go.
That's a good start.
Here we go. Number 9. Okay, so my number 9 is a game that I think maybe fell through some cracks. It's a Euro game, and so by its nature is generally not terribly thematic, but I do love the theme. I love the cover of the game. I love how it kind of evokes this underwater post-apocalyptic world, and those are two things that I really like in game theming. I like the post-apocalyptic element, and I like the underwater element. And this game is called Otis, O-T-Y-S. Have you played this game?
No, I haven't. I've seen the box, but I've never seen even the game. I know the game, though.
Yeah, so basically
no,
the idea is that it's after this post-apocalyptic event, and there are some valuable artifacts that are in these cities that are now completely submerged underwater because of some event of some type. And so what you're doing is you're sending divers down to get these artifacts, okay? And it has this kind of dual layer channel board where the divers are these kind of tiles that slide down in an action queue. And so there's kind of almost, I wouldn't call it a programming element per se, but there's a little bit of a programming element, and there's some resource management. And so, again, I don't know how well the mechanisms support the theme, but I do think it's a game that if you like kind of puzzly Euro games, it definitely has a puzzly Euro feel to it, that you can probably find it for pretty cheap. I don't think it did very well, but I like it. I think it's not my favorite game, obviously, but I do like it, and that's my number 9 is Otis.
I think it looks a bit too light for me. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's a light medium weight game. It's not a gateway game by any means, but it's I wouldn't call it super heavy.
But my number 9 is a bit lighter, and this is the cheat.
Okay.
And I have to say this with the backstory.
Okay.
When you told me the topic, I asked. We have this chat group in Facebook, like in this messenger.
Okay.
With the people who I'm going to the board game club with. I said that I have a difficult topic. That Mike said that I have to put these border games. That tell me some border games. They were telling games. I hadn't played even half of them that they were telling. It's interesting. And this came up from a friend of mine. I think Nico said it.
Okay.
And this is Ice Cool.
Oh.
It's a bit cheating.
It's frozen water.
But it's in it's in the Finnish form.
Yeah.
So I had to put it.
No, I like that.
I didn't add any other snow games. I'm sorry. There might be Snow Tales here on the list otherwise. But this, I mean, you're playing inside a school of ice. And we just played it first time with our 4-year-old, like 3 days ago, I think. No, 1 week ago. And it was so fun. And it's nice to see that she's also able to flick the penguins a bit.
Yeah.
And she didn't even become last in the game. And this is a really cool game where you flick the penguins around the school and try to collect fish before is it some kind of catcher or something?
Yeah.
Who's trying to catch them. So one person is playing the penguin that is catching the others, and the others are trying to collect the fish before all of them are caught. It's a very interesting flicking game, and you can make tricks with the penguins by flicking them to the head. They are bouncing, and then if you flick to the side, they are curving, and it's really cool.
It's ice cool, yes.
So cool. Yes.
Yeah, that's been one of the more popular dexterity games in the last few years, so.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Number 8. So my number 8, I think I see your light game, and I'm going to go even lighter. This is really primarily.
This was 1.02 in Board Game Geek. You cannot go lower.
Okay, well you've got BGG up. You can check. This is probably heavier than that, but it's not much. It's almost it really is more a children's game. This is called Ocean Crisis, and this is a really cool cooperative family game. I would call it a family game, not necessarily a children's game, but you can play it with children. It's a cooperative game where you are trying to clean pollution out of the ocean. So it's got a really cool environmental element to it as well that I appreciate. I believe it's a Taiwanese company that produced it, and Shepherd Kit is the name of the developer or a publisher, I should say. And it's light. I mean, like I said, it's a family game, but it goes beyond kind of the traditional cooperative game. It doesn't feel like every other cooperative game out there. It's got a pretty neat dice rolling element to deal with, mitigation of the kind of the events that come up, which are really trash and things you're trying to clean out of the ocean. And it's got some light player powers, and it's got some special power cards. And this is a tough one because I don't know how easy it is to get hold of. But I think it actually does a really good job of evoking theme of this kind of the oceans are getting polluted with trash and oil and other things, and you're trying to clean the ocean of this stuff. So I really like Ocean Crisis. That's my number 8.
Does it have any hidden information that you need to read?
hidden information you need to read. Nothing hidden because it's
open?
A cooperative game. So yes, I don't believe there's anything hidden in this. I think it's a pure co-op.
Okay, so it's possible to play with younger than 8.
Absolutely.
The suggested age says 8. So
yeah, no, I think you can play
theming for a game.
Yes, I think you can play younger than 8.
Yeah, it's a good theming for kids. So that's why I'm asking.
I agree. I think it's great to play with kids.
It's also very timely.
Yes.
Thank you for the suggestion.
You got it.
Put an arrow there that I have to check it out.
Fantastic.
My number 8 has the water mostly in the title.
That's fine.
It's Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea.
You know what? I almost chose this, but I didn't. I almost chose this. Okay.
This was I had to pick this because otherwise I couldn't have decided between the others on the list. I picked this because it has it in the title.
Okay, fair.
And there's not that much sea, but you might have sea paddles and you move along the sea with the boat. Mm-hmm. Other than that this is really convoluted. How do I say? Not to be taken seriously game. Right. It's a popcorn game, like Mike coined the term, I think.
Yeah.
And you cannot play this seriously.
No.
You do not want to play this so that you count points.
No.
It will last 5, 6, 8 hours otherwise. Just play, have fun, go with the flow, and it's perfect.
I couldn't have said it better.
That's all about the game that I have to say.
I could not have said it better myself. I agree 100%, obviously. I've said similar things, and I'm glad to hear that you that you feel similarly. It's not a game to min-max. It's not a game to worry about knowing every other person's power. Give me a break. Just play the game. It's silly fun. It's not trying to be anything other than that. And if you play with the, I think it's the Pestilence expansion, then you have more water involved because you've got those, I think they're the mer people basically, and they've got their own little water board. So that's cool. I almost went with it, but I didn't. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, but I mean, if you min-max it and you play it, let's say with 6 people, it will be minimum 6 hours and no one can bear that. It's not that kind of a game. It's not 18xx that you want to sit at the table that much. You just want to have fun and see what silly things happen.
That's exactly it.
And that's
exactly right. Nicely done. All right.
Thank you.
Number 7. Okay, so for number 7, I went with a Ryan Lockett game. Of Red Raven Games, I went with Islebound, which is a, it's a game that's based on the water. You're moving your ship across this ocean world that Ryan Lockett has created, and it has a kind of some similar mechanics to Above and Below. Where you are kind of exhausting your crew. Each crew member is going to have particular powers, and you exhaust your crew. You move them from the top deck of your boat to the bottom deck of your boat where they're going to rest, and you are trying to kind of there is some type of combat, but like many of his games, it's pretty abstracted combat. And while it's not my favorite of the Ryan Lockett games, I do enjoy it, and I think that it does a good job of kind of putting you in this ocean world, and I love the art. That certainly plays a huge role in it. But, it's not one of his most popular games, but I do like it quite a bit. So that's my number 7, Islebound.
Do you know, I have not played any Ryan Lockett games, I think. I have Empires of the Void 2 on the shelf, but I haven't had any, and I haven't had possibility to play any.
Okay.
I think. I'm not sure if I've played some smaller games of his, but none of these bigger ones.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Because they look cool, and they seem like I would like them, especially Near and Far I might like. Islebound is actually even more interesting to me than the others.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of them are on Tabletop Simulator. Maybe you can try them that way. Although I do think it would lose a little something. I do think that the aesthetic and the components of these games do play a role in them. But you should try. You should try one. I think if you try any one of the big box Ryan Lockett games, you'll get a sense for how many of them play. I do think, though, that Empires of the Void and maybe City of Iron are a little more outliers. They're maybe a little heavier than the other games. I think both Empires of the Void and City of Iron are a bit heavier than Islebound, Above and Below, Near and Far, Ancient World even. But yeah, you should try one.
Yeah, didn't he make this 2-player game, or was it 2-player game? This Haven or something like that. That looks really interesting.
No.
Who's it?
No, actually, Haven was Alf Siegert that did Haven, but he did the art.
Ah, okay.
He did the art for it, and it came out in Red Raven.
Okay.
Now, he did do a small...
It seemed so similar.
Yeah, he did do a small box game recently called Rome, but that's almost an abstract. So while I like it, it's a small box abstract. All right, here we go.
My number 7
Go ahead, sorry.
My number 7 is also... are you at 6 already?
No, you're right. Yeah, I'm losing my mind. You didn't even give me your 7. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, yeah. My number 7 is also a bit abstract, but this one is a game where you have your own player board and you pile nice plastic pieces of different colors on top of it, and you look at it from above, and whatever you see there tells you that how much points you score if you choose a certain card. And this is Reef.
Oh, and gotcha. Yeah.
This doesn't really feel like water to me, but it's Reef, so it has to be in the water, and I really like the pieces, and this is much deeper than it seems. It says 1.84 in Board Game Geek, but we already know that that is not correct. And especially if you play it in 2-player game, it's nice because you can plan. In 3, it's about the perfect tightness probably. In 4, you can't really plan because someone will steal your cards anyway.
Right.
And have you played this, by the way?
I have played Reef, yeah, and I wouldn't even have considered this. But you're right. The pieces are called coral. I mean, it's definitely a water-themed game.
Yes. Yeah, it's in the sea. You said
that's
sea. That's
fair.
And ocean.
Very fair.
That's the. Not. I didn't go with the water that much as sea and ocean. But yeah, this is really, really good gateway game, or very, very like easy to approach and lightweight game. I think it came with same time with Gizmos, and they kind of ate the audience from each other, if I remember right. So half of the people chose Gizmos, half of the people chose Reef. If they came in following years, they would have more audience and more people who like them a lot.
I agree. I also think Reef lost some. I think Azul also cut into that a bit too. Yes,
they all came in the same year, kind of same year. So it's a very, very interesting timing. But this is a bit underappreciated maybe. It's much deeper and better and quicker, and it has more options than people generally think when they see the game.
I think that's true of a lot of Emerson Matsuuchi games. They on the surface they seem very, very basic and almost like, is that all there is to it? But then like Reiner Knizia is another designer I can name that's that way, that you read this one-page rule set and you're like, this can't be all there is, and then you play it a few times and you discover hidden depths. Speaking of water, you discover hidden depths that you didn't see on the first play.
Yeah. And I have to add that the art in this game is by this Chris Williams, who is master of color. He also made the art in Coimbra. His use of color combinations, it's so good. I really like how the colors match each other, and it's so vibrant.
Yeah.
That I just have to add.
No, that's great. I didn't realize it was the same artist. That's fantastic. Okay, here we go. Number 6. So my number 6 is my one... let me double check here. Yes, my one pirate game. Could have gone for a lot of different things, but I went for one that's maybe this is getting a little cult of the new, but and I want to play it more. But I do think it does a great job of evoking a watery world theme, and that is Forgotten Waters, the most recent Plaid Hat game. And this one has a really heavy storytelling element. I would say that if you are playing this game looking for a tight mechanical experience, like you're really into the mechanics of a game, then this may leave you feeling a little bit flat because there's not a whole lot of mechanics involved. But storytelling, theme evoking, it does a really good job of that. And I think it also very much leans into this, pirate world. And so I think a lot of games try that, and not many of them actually pull it off well. But Forgotten Waters is a really, really cool experience, one that I want to play more because I haven't gone through the whole kind of campaign yet. But I think this is one that the timing of it has been rough because this is a game that is best played with multiple people around a table. And it came out right really before Corona hit. And so, you know, there's a lot of these people that are there are a lot of these posts on social media. What's the one game you want to play when you can get back around a table with friends? That's Forgotten Waters for me because I don't feel like I've played it in its best form yet.
Yeah, I was going to comment that exact thing, that if it came, let's say 2 years ago, I would have immediately bought it and tried to play it. But this year, no, not a chance that I will buy the game and let it wait. Let's wait first for other things to end and then get the game. But yes, this is really interesting game to me. I think that there was something missing in Dead of Winter, and I didn't like the theming of Gen 7 at all. But this seems to do it both, like in a way that I like it, and I'm waiting to get this played at some point.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. My number 6 is probably a game that you have no idea about. I don't think anyone there has played it, and this is Coral Reef. It's a kids game.
Okay.
And this is by this Finnish company Tactic, who are making also in UK. I think they have the UK branch. Anyway, this is a kids game. It's a puzzle where you have pieces that have sea in them, and then it's on a coral reef because the name is Coral Reef. And there are different fishes or items, like there can be a statue or a crab or a seahorse, and you make a puzzle, and then you open 2 cards at the same time, and you are supposed to find those 2. It's like this I found it thing, but you're competing who finds them first. 2 different objects from there, and if you find them, you get to choose a fish. Or they have this very small toys. There are fishes and seashell and something like that, and then there's also chests. And this is really good game with the daughter. At least we've played since she was 2. We haven't played it for a while, but it seems that I've logged 19 plays of this. It might not be all of them, but I've played this quite a lot. And we have only played with the easier side. If you flip it around, the tiles, there are lots of plants and everything, and it becomes really difficult. And even for adults, it's a bit difficult. You can play with the kids easy, like if it's a 2-year-old kid, like we did. I showed the cards first, and I asked that, can I? And I'm like, are you ready, in a way? And she said that she's ready, then I looked at them, and then we competed, and we were quite equal, actually. And this is really good kids game, in my opinion, and you can play it with adults also, because it can be difficult.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you like this kind of a game.
Yeah, no, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite kids game that I've played so far. And it's great. It's also Finnish, so...
yeah, so you got that going for you as well. That is cool.
Yeah. It was originally actually... Moomin Jungle Adventure was the original game of this, and this is re-implementation of that.
Ah, okay. Awesome. And so was the original game also a water theme, or?
No, it's Moomin. Do you know Moomin?
No.
Moomin are the Finnish characters. It's a troll. I'm sure you've seen it. You have to have seen it. It's worldwide.
I must have seen it and just not heard it called that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Moomin in English, and they have the similar Jungle Adventure, and this is remade version, this Coral Reef.
Okay, cool.
But listeners know what Moomin are, so it's fine.
Gotcha. That's yeah. They'll know what you're talking about, even if I don't. But that's all right. Yeah. I'm used to podcasting with people where I have no idea what they're talking about, because I podcast with Dan most often. Yeah. All right. Number 5. Okay, so my number 5, I could have gone in a couple of different directions. I originally was going to put the card game version of this game, but then I did go with, because I think the card game version of the game does a better job of evoking the theme, but I think the dice game version is a better game. And so I'm going to go with Fleet Dice, or Fleet the Dice game.
I want to play this so much, but it's impossible to get. It's not in Europe. I'm annoyed. And Eagle Griffin is really difficult to order anything from because the delivery here is €50, and I'm not paying them prices.
Nope, I don't blame you. I do know that they're reprinting it, but I don't know if it's going to make it any easier to get in Europe. I hope it does.
Even in the Kickstarter with that or Mercado de Lisboa, which both I would have backed, it was about 50% of the price of the game was the shipping added, like €20 for the game, and you add €20 for the shipping. It's ridiculous. I'm not paying them prices really.
I don't blame you. That's frustrating. But yeah, I played the card game first, which is a good card game. I like that. I like that designer duo of Pinchback and Riddle. I do like their card games especially. But then the dice game is one of the best roll and write games I've played. It was my number one roll and write game for a while, and that's since been supplanted. But it's still really, really good. And it obviously, is based around fishing, which is a watery theme, this fishing theme. Other games have done fishing themes also, but I just like this game. If you like a roll and write that's got a bit more going on, a bit more, opportunity to string combos together, which is something that roll and writes tend to do well. I think Fleet Dice does a great job at that. So my number 5 is Fleet the Dice Game.
I was actually thinking the card game, and then I was. It had to compete with Captains of the Gulf, so I just ruled them both out because both have this fishing. They have so similar feel, both of them.
Okay, I haven't played Captains of the Gulf.
Both are really good. It has a solo mode by the designer Jason Dinger. He put the files to Board Game Geek. I've actually played it solo, and I don't play solo games.
Interesting.
And the solo mode works quite well. Okay. It's well done.
I will keep an eye on that one.
And it's a good game. If you like Fleet, it has so similar feeling, but it has a board and a bit more things going on.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So my number 7 was Reef, 6 was Coral Reef, and the 5 has to be
Coral.
No, Reef Encounter.
The Richard Breeze game.
Yes.
Okay.
I've played this only once, and I really liked the mechanisms. It was how can I say? It was very, very well done. You had to do things in a certain way, but in a different way. I mean, how do I say? In the beginning, you feed if you want to feed your fish, and then at the end you do the end of the turn things, and in the middle you can mix the things that you do. And you have these corals on the board, and there you can put this. I don't know the right terminology for this because I'm not a native English speaker, but there are these worm-like things that you can put there on the polyp tiles, and the polyps become corals, and then when they are corals, then you can eat them with the fish, and when the last this worm thing is eaten, then the game ends, and it's actually very interesting. So you are a fish, but you build the coral for your fish.
Got it. Okay.
And it's like Richard Breeze has these very strange mechanisms in some games, but this was very good, and I can't wait to play this again. Actually, the whole group that I played it with liked it a lot, and they want to play it again. And I have something with this What's Your Game. I have almost all of their games.
Ah, okay.
I just like what they do. I don't know what it is.
That's interesting. I think in the United States they don't distribute that here. I think somebody else distributes.
It's R&D there.
Yeah, that's right. R&D. Okay. I haven't played it yet.
I have the old version from What's Your Game. It also seems to be Quinnet Games and Zeman Games have published this.
Okay. Yeah, it's one I would definitely try because, like you said, a lot of times Richard Breeze games are a little bit weird. Like some of the mechanics just seem odd, but they're almost always interesting. And, I've played a lot of the key games, and the key games are always weird to me in that I always really like certain aspects of them, and then other aspects I'm like, I just wish he had kept this part out. You know what I mean? But I would definitely like to play Reef Encounter.
And he doesn't know how to write rules usually.
No, he does not. He does not.
You can say the things a bit easier. But this was interesting. I read the rules. I was like, what am I doing in this game? Then I play one round. This is how it goes. This is very cool. Like Keyflower, for example. It's the same way. You read the rules and you don't understand anything until you play one round.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it.
Yeah. But this is a game worth trying. I think you might like it.
Yeah, I would definitely try it for sure. Number 4. So, Yanni, we haven't had any crossovers as of yet, and I'm not sure that we're going to have many, but I have a feeling my number 4 is going to show up on your list, and it may... We didn't really rate these by how much we like them, I kind of did. Actually, I did kind of rate them by how much I like them. And I don't know that you did. I think you were saying you did yours by how well they evoked the theme.
Also a bit how much I like them.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't put the most thematic game to the top because I like it the least on this list. I couldn't put it now to number 1.
I have a feeling that this would be a game that you rate highly, but it's Underwater Cities, Vladimir Suchy.
Might show up.
It might show up. Yeah, I had a feeling this one might show up on your list, and I have a feeling it might be number 1. But I think Underwater Cities is, kind of another Vladimir Suchy tight as a drum Euro game that gives you an incredible feeling of satisfaction when you're able to pull off some smart moves. I really like the simplicity of the system, but the decision space is immense, right? You have a really nice wide decision space within a pretty tight rule set, at least, compared to some of these other modern Euros where complexity takes, you just throw system on top of system on top of system on top of system on top of system. And yeah, I enjoy some of those, but Underwater Cities isn't really like that. It's more in the line of his other games that are, relatively simple rule set, but a nice crunchy decision space. So I really, I need to play Underwater Cities more. I've only played it a couple of times, but I like it quite a bit. So that's my number 4.
What player counts have you tried it?
I've played it solo, and I've played it at 3.
Well, I'll say a bit later. But I like that Vladimir Suchy has this kind of games that they seem complex, but like this Reef Encounter I talked earlier, it still works very well.
Yeah.
And he's doing it very well, that he makes, with small decisions, they don't become convoluted, but they become meaty.
Right.
It's a bit same with the Pulsar 28, whatever the number is.
Yeah,
it's
the
also
Pulsar 2089.
It's a bit similar.
That's true.
I really like his stuff. My number 4 is Abyss. And this, I haven't played it for a while. I have the expansion. And since I got the expansion, I haven't played it because I got it from the German Amazon. It said English, but I got German. And
oh no!
I had a bit of a problem to get the files, but someone in Board Game Geek sent me the files. I mean the scans of the cards, and now it's done. But I want to get this to table soon. It was on the table. I mean the box was on the table 2 times already when we had friends over in the summer, but it just didn't get to the table. Willingness took too long, and what was the other game to play? I don't remember what the other game was. It also took too long to play with them, so. I couldn't play this. I read the rules just recently, and this is a great game where you have a board. There are cards that are different councils of fishes. I mean, they are in the council from different types of fishes, and then there's these lords of those types of fishes, and you summon the lords, and then they give you special powers. And if they have keys, then if you have 3 keys, you can build up. I mean, attach them to this area, which is
location.
Under the sea area.
Yeah.
And this game really reminds me. Every time I see this game, and if there is some word called under in similar proximity, I get this Ariel's Under the Sea playing in my head. Now I've had it playing in my head 3 hours because that's when I opened the file where I have the list. So thank you for this a lot. And it's still playing in my head. I want to sing here that Under the Sea, but maybe not in a broadcast. But anyway, this is also a game that I wish more people played. And they came up with a very nice looking anniversary edition just recently. And I want to get the Leviathan expansion also. I only have the Kraken.
Got it. Okay.
This is great. And they had this very cool idea that I haven't seen any other game do. They made 5 different color boxes.
Right.
And all the boxes have different type of guy. I have the purple myself. I don't know which one is the most popular, but the purple seemed cool, but it's so scary.
Yeah, no, they're all cool covers. Yeah, they represent the different factions or races of it. Yeah, it's very cool. All right. So are we good for 3?
Yeah.
All right. Number 3. So my number 3 is a game that is the highest cooperative game on my list. I have a couple of cooperative games on here, but this is the highest cooperative game on my list. And this is, I'll say specifically because I've only played the 2nd edition, Atlantis Rising. This is a really, really good cooperative game. It features basically, it's a very, very simple system that predominantly is built around dice rolling, which can be problematic if you don't like randomness, but there's a fair amount, quite a bit amount of mitigation. It's much less random than it appears when you first read the rules or play the game. It's also quite difficult, but it never feels unfair, and I think that that's a really delicate balance that not every game is able to pull off. So this is a game where when you lose, you oftentimes feel like you are just on the edge. And when you win, you always feel like you're just on the edge and you very easily could have lost as well. And so it's just a really beautiful game. It evokes the theme well. And I think it doesn't outlast its welcome. It plays in a perfect length of time. I think you could have an alpha gamer situation, but that, I don't think that's a problem of the game. I think that's, group dependent. And so the second edition of Atlantis Rising is a really, really good game.
Yeah, I'm waiting to find it second hand because the MSRP is a bit too high in my opinion for a game that I haven't played, and I don't really like co-op games that much. But if I'll find it second hand, I will get it and try it. This is really interesting to me. I had the first edition in my wish list for a long time. Then they came up with the second edition, and the price was a bit high in my opinion. But I'm still very interested to play this.
Yeah, it is high. Now, I will tell you, the component quality is through the roof. I don't even have the deluxe version. I have the original version, and it's... I thought I had somehow gotten the deluxe edition. I'm like, this isn't the deluxe edition? Because it's ridiculous. But, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to continue that Elf Creek made a great job with this game, and if they keep this quality with the games, I don't know, there will be one of the new Days of Wonder.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've got the new. I'm right now actually playing because I'm going to be reviewing the solo variant of Honey Buzz, their new game, and it's also through the roof component quality.
Okay, I heard about some other Elf Creek game. I think it was in Corner to Corner where Tom is talking with Rado. That Rado had some game there on the table, some dancing thing. Or do I remember? I don't know if I remember right.
I bet you're right. I bet it's Merchants of the. I backed it. It's a Kickstarter.
Dark something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Merchants
I'm hoping
of Dark something.
I'm hoping that's just as good. Merchants of the Dark Road or something. I'm backing that, so I hope it's good.
Yeah, I heard Rado talk. I was watching the older ones that I missed, and that one I watched yesterday. So it just came to my mind that that's related to this publisher.
So that's my number 3, Atlantis Rising.
All right. My number 3 is also Atlantis, but in this one you try to survive while you escape. And this is Survive Escape from Atlantis, if someone didn't get it.
Yep.
This is older version is Escape from Atlantis, I think, or I don't know which one is the earliest one. This is 82. I don't know. This is the one that I had marked as I've played it. So.
Got it.
Which is the newest one?
I think it's, Survive, Escape from Atlantis, I think is the newest one.
Yeah. It seems that the first one was Survive, Escape from Atlantis, then it was Escape from Atlantis, and now it's again Survive, Escape from Atlantis.
That may very well be.
Screwing me over.
Yeah, this very well may be.
Anyway, this would have been the most thematic water-wise, because you have to swim in this one, but I don't like the game as much as I do these others. But I had to put it higher, and it's actually interesting, it's on the same Atlantis spot as yours.
That is funny, yeah.
And here there is a like an island, like Atlantis, and then it's sinking, and there are sharks and some other sea monsters that try to eat you, and you're trying to get your meeples to the coastline, to the safety with the boats, and your meeples have a number at the bottom. When you do the setup, you put a certain number somewhere, and if I remember right, you're not allowed to look at them after the setup.
I think that's
and
true.
And then you have to get them to the safety, and at the end, who has the most points written under the meeples wins the game. And this is so mean game. But
it is.
This is, again, do not play it seriously,
No.
otherwise you won't have friends. If you play with 4 people, you have 3 less friends after this game, so don't do it. Just
Correct.
don't take anything seriously. Just
Nope.
play for the fun. It's quite funny and short and quick and plays well, but I don't like it that much because of the stabbiness, and you can...
Right.
There can be a situation where 2 players can stab 1 player, and it feels like... might feel that one person is the target. It's worse to me than alpha gamer problem, like you said. And both are group... depending on the group, that becomes a problem or not. If one is the target, or if one wants to alpha game, the other group is the one who lets it happen, so... Yeah. But
I agree. It's not my favorite game in the
Escape
world.
from Atlantis.
Yeah, it's a good choice for the theme, but yeah, it's not my favorite game either. All right, here we go.
Yeah, same for me. I've rated it 6, so it shouldn't be on the list, but it has to be.
That's
in a way,
I forced you with this theme. I forced you. All right.
Yeah.
Number 2. So my number 2 is a game that I was, the first time I played it, well, first of all, I was interested in it just because of the theme and the box cover and the what I'd heard of the mechanics. It's not a heavy game at all. It's actually a very quick, relatively light card game, and that is Aquatica. This is a game that I've been kind of championing, and not just me. It's now part of the Dice Tower Essentials line. It started as a Cosmodrome game. They're a Russian publisher. And I was also interested in it because of them, because I like Smartphone Inc. so much, which is also by them, although it's a different designer, if I remember correctly. But Aquatica is a very simple, very, very simple card game where you have a player board that is representing the ocean depths, and you acquire cards that you put in this slotted board, and as you move the cards up, you have to take a particular action to move the cards up. You're exploring the depths of those cards, and they give you different actions that can trigger combos. There's 2 different kind of economies in the game. There's a power, and then there's a gold, and you're using them to gain characters that give you more powers. Everybody is playing a character card that allows you to do something, and then there's one card that allows you to bring all those characters back into your hand, and then you keep going. Again, super quick. You're kind of trying to achieve goals and trigger these combos. But it looks gorgeous. It plays super quickly. It allows for some neat combos and kind of tableau building. That's not exactly tableau building, but at least temporary tableau building. And you have to take an action to score the cards, which I think is nice too. They don't just automatically score. And so there's a little bit of a tension in, am I going to be able to score all of these cards that I've fully, where I fully explored the cards, you still have to score them. So a really good game. Aquatica is my number 2.
Yeah, I'm so sad that this was sold out in Spiel when I went to their booth. They had everything sold out already. And now I'm waiting for the English reprint. I almost ordered a French version of this game just this week, beginning of the week.
Oh, wow.
But then I thought that maybe it's coming from Arcane Wonders to Europe soon also. It
Yeah.
seems that there are a bit of delay between US and Europe currently. Not as much as in the spring, but it will come at some point.
Yeah.
The English version is available already, but I'll wait. I will buy this. I will make a blind buy because I wanted it last year from Essen and I couldn't get it.
Yeah, I
And I trust you and Tom, and it seems much better than the other sea game that came last year. This deep sea, what it is called, from Days of Wonder.
From which one?
Deep Blue.
Oh, Deep Blue. Yeah,
Days
no,
of
that
Wonder.
game.
Deep Blue.
That game
yeah,
was.
it
was,
seems
was,
a lot better.
It's 100 times better than Deep Blue.
So that's not your number 1. I tried to fish a bit.
It is not my number 1. It is not. Didn't make my list.
All right. Oh, really? I didn't play that, but it seems so random.
It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. I thought Aquatica might be your first one, actually.
Oh, okay,
I was
interesting.
looking at the water games, and I was annoyed that I haven't played this one. Now I don't have any idea what your number one might be.
Okay, good. I have no idea what your... Oh, I do know what yours is, but that's okay. I want to hear what your number 2 is.
Now I'm thinking that I should swap them around. Maybe I'll do that. So my number 2
just to mess
is
me up.
Underwater Cities.
Oh, that's awful. Okay, that's fine. Come at me. Go ahead. That's good.
Formerly number 1, but now it's number 2, Underwater Cities. Have you played the expansion? I have to start with this.
I have not played the expansion.
The expansion is something that makes this game a rating of 10 to me. And I've only rated this expansion and Gloomhaven a 10. I'm not giving 10s.
Really?
I give 9.5s, but I don't give 10s. The expansion is perfect. It's like Prelude does to Terraforming Mars. It makes it like a jump start. But the expansion, there is a module that, first of all, the assistants have differentiation. They have different skills that you get to your place. And you skip the first round. There are tiles, you choose one of the tiles. You get some resources and some buildings and something, and you skip the first round.
Oh,
Effectively,
I like it.
gives you a jump start, and it takes away the boring, useless first round.
Right.
Where you just try to begin building. It's a perfect module for that. There are other modules also, but only for that module it's like a very, very, very good expansion. And this game, we play 2-player with the wife, and it's really, really good with 2. I wouldn't play it with 4 ever.
Yeah.
Especially without the expansion, I would never play it with 4.
Right,
But I would play with 3 with the expansion because it makes it faster. And yeah. This would have been number 1. It is number 1 in the list that I will make later in writing, but I'm swapping now so that
I got you. Just so you can mess me up, and I have no idea what your number 1 is. Okay, good.
Yeah, I have no idea what your number 1 is either.
Okay, well, here we go. And finally, number 1. All right. So, my number 1, you should know what it is. And do you know why you should know what it is?
It can't be Sight. If it's Sight, I
not
call
Sight.
foul.
It is not
It's
Sight.
a third strike if it's Sight.
No, it's not Scythe. The reason why you should know it is because it was already on your list, Yanni. My number 1 is Abyss.
Heroes of Land.
No,
Really?
Abyss.
You
Yeah.
like it? That's why you were silent. I thought that you don't like the game because you didn't say anything.
No, I love Abyss,
Cheating.
and I especially love it with the Leviathan expansion.
Yes.
But this game was a game that from the first time I saw it, I was interested. Just on an aesthetic, thematic level. Yep. And I tend to really like Bruno Cathala games as well. And I remember getting it from Gen Con the year it was released, and I was just over the moon excited. And it's a game I've played many, many times. I still enjoy playing it. I really do think that although it's essentially, a card game, the board is nice, but it's pretty superfluous. You don't necessarily need it. It's a game that I feel has just a perfect weight. It takes a perfect amount of time. It has a perfect level of interaction. It's just, I think it's a really elegant game that looks gorgeous. And I absolutely love Abyss. And I do think that the weakest element of the game was that monster track, and that really gets rectified with the Leviathan expansion. So I agree with you in that. I think that this is a game that should be an evergreen title. This is a game that should be still played in 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know if it will be. I hope it continues to stay in print. But I think that this is a game that was hurt when it was first released because people expected it to be something that it wasn't, because it was this big box game with this very imposing looking cover, and people were expecting a heavier game, and it's not. It's a relatively light to light medium weight card game, but it shouldn't be judged on what people thought it would be. It should be judged for what it is, which is a brilliant card game. Yeah,
I also, like you, this was a blind buy to me. I saw and read that they are coming with 5 different these phases in the cover. I thought I'm buying that. I didn't even look what kind of game it is. Then it came, I read the rules. this is a bit light. Then I played it and I thought that it's good. Then after a while I thought that I'm selling this, but then I thought that no, this is actually, I want to play this again. I played it another time and I'm keeping it now. I mean, after that.
Right.
After one play I thought that it's too light, but it was up to the group that I played it with. Then later we played it with our friends, and I mean with my wife and our friend couple, and that was really, really good. And
yeah.
it's a bit up to the people you play it with.
It is.
But yes, I agree with you said, with everything except that I still want that Leviathan. It was sold out when I was about to buy it, and now I just didn't buy it yet.
Yeah. Good stuff. So that was my number one.
Oh, that was a surprise to me. I thought that why you didn't talk about it.
I was purposely keeping my mouth shut.
But that I should have understood from that. Yeah. So you have no idea what my number one is?
I really don't. I have no idea what your number one is.
The number one is because you had this sea and ocean thing in the theming, and this is, in my opinion, a very, very underrated game. It has only 1,600 ratings in Board Game Geek. It should have a lot more, and if you haven't played this, you can go to yukata.de to try this. And this is Transatlantic.
Ah, okay.
So this is like a thematic Concordia, and it's thematic only because all the cards in the game are different boats, and the boats have the name, and these are real as far as I know. There are names on the cards of a boat, then how fast it goes, and then the year it's made, the population it takes, and the tonnage that it can carry cargo. And it really feels like you are putting, I mean, at least to me, of course not to the people who say that Eurogames have no theme, but it feels like when you get the boat, you put it to the sea and it goes to the front of the sea, and the slower boats are rusting and going away, and there are different parts of the sea where you can put the boats, and then you do, of course there is this card rondel, with same as in Concordia. It maybe doesn't feel like that, but this totally feels like an ocean game, at least to me, because there are different oceans and you put the boats to the different oceans and they go do things and carry cargo or passengers, and when they are new, and you can take Titanic also, but there's no icebergs, unfortunately or fortunately, but I mean, the theme comes through, in my opinion, a lot more than in Concordia, maybe.
Right.
At least. Have you played this?
I have not played this, but I don't know that I've even been around it being played. So I would definitely give it a shot. I've liked the Matt Gertz games that I've played, so I would definitely give it a shot.
Now, this is very underrated, in my opinion, and people wanted more from this. I remember this was released in 2017. I saw it before its release, and people were waiting for it to be released, and I was following this page. I mean, it was in my wishlist before it was released, so I saw the earlier images also, and the discussions in the forums. I was waiting for it to be released, and then people were a bit disappointed, and I don't know why it didn't get any, like, I don't know, it didn't get any buzz or anything. But maybe because this PD were like, they have this Concordia and Navegador, which was also in my shortlist, Navegador.
Right.
They have this huge box size, and Transatlantic comes in a square. So maybe some people can be annoyed by that.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, it's
but
hard
you
to
can
say.
try it in yukata.de if you haven't tried it also, if you're listening to this. It works quite well there, actually. We played one time there this summer, and it worked quite well. And I want to get it to the table again now after playing it in Yukata. It's been a while. This is not the best game on the list, but it gives me the most, not second most, because this was number 2. But
right.
It had to be on the list.
No, it sounds good. That's a good. You did well for a very difficult topic. I think we both did well. I think there's some interesting. I like the fact that there's not a lot of crossover too. We had pretty distinct lists. So I know that you like to have your audience vote on the best list. I'm very much looking forward to the results, and I think that they're going to have 2 very distinct lists to choose from.
What do you think of your chances? Will you win?
I think the fact that we both have underwater cities on there helps us. I think there may be people
also.
And we both have Abyss also. I think that might be the defining factor. I think because the other games, I think, have their own charms. But I now that I think about it, I think really it's going to be, do people like Underwater Cities better or do they like Abyss better? And I think that might... I don't know your audience well enough. If your audience is more into heavier games, then you will win. If the audience is more into midweight games, then I will win. We'll see.
My audience don't really seem to comment. I put the voting with Richard just yesterday, and I put it to Twitter, and you cannot put a poll in the same post with a picture. So I put the picture, and I replied with a poll, and I just wrote to the poll that which one, we are Hot Wizards or me, and people are voting the Hot Wizards because they don't read the post that it's in relation to. So it's a bit annoying. But anyway, I don't care about Twitter that much anyway.
Right.
It's everything that Dan Hughes says it being.
It is indeed.
And it's actually interesting that Underwater Cities was your number 4 and my number 1. Abyss was my number 4 and your number 1. So they switched the places. And both of us had Atlantis on the 3rd spot. So it's actually quite interesting.
Yeah. They're like I said, they're very. I think that these are two nice, distinct lists to choose from.
Yes. Yeah, and I really want Aquatica and Fleet the Dice came from your list. Can't wait to get them.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you think.
Especially if Fleet the Dice game is a heavier roll and write. I'm a bit bored with the light ones.
Then you also should keep your eyes out for when Hadrian's Wall releases from Garphill. You really need, if you like, it's yeah. It's the new one. Yes, right. I have seen your pictures. You remember when I said that I've got a new favorite roll and write game that's taken over from Fleet Dice.
Okay, that's that.
I don't want to give anything away.
I'll actually send email to Shem because I'm also interested in Raiders of City, or maybe it's better than the Raiders of
If you're talking just base game, then yeah, Scythia is better.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I sent him email that is it possible to get Paladins as a review copy. He said that I would love to. I send you this Kickstarter one, and you get the Architects also. Okay, thank you.
Shem is a fantastic person. He really is.
And I was just asking that, is it possible? And I can pay the shipping and everything. He just sent them. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, Shem is actually just a legitimately great person and a good designer too.
Yeah, it seems so. And he was very polite in replying and so kind-seeming person that I'll ask about this Hadrian's Wall also. It looks super interesting to me.
Yeah, it's the crunchiest flip and write, whatever roll and write that I've played. So
that's interesting. So, thank you. Do you want to add anything?
No, I appreciate the invite, and I hope that our lists give people some if they're interested even in a little bit in underwater themed games. Hopefully, this gave them some things to think about. But I do appreciate being asked to come on, and I enjoyed our chat.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to talk with you. I've been listening to you so much in Sporadically Pod, especially, that it's good to finally get to talk to you. Although we did talk that one time about Feast for Odin in that Spobo chat.
That is true. We did.
Once.
Yes.
Did you get to play that Norwegians yet?
I still haven't had a chance to play it yet. No, I can't wait to, but I haven't.
Come on.
I know. It's too many games, man. Too many games.
That's your future plan.
There you go.
If you don't have another one yet.
There we go. We'll make that. So, we'll put that on the list.
All right. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
Well, the easiest way is just to find me on the Dice Tower. That's pretty much where all of my current content there is. Just find me on the dicetower.com or go to YouTube and look up Dice Tower. I still have my Solo Mode Games channel that is on YouTube. If you're looking for solo playthroughs of games, you could check that out. I don't remember how many videos I have up there. It's been a while since I've put one up, but that might be of interest. And that would, and Sporadically Bored, of course, with Mike and Dan. If you, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. If you want to listen to a podcast that rambles for an hour and 45 about anything but board games, and then maybe gets about 10 or 15 minutes of board games in there, you might enjoy that as well.
Yeah, you would have never been forgiven by Dan if you forgot that part.
That's true. I almost blew it. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm glad I got it in there at the end.
Yeah, that's good. And you talk about board games more than you think that you do.
We do.
Yeah,
we do.
but people should listen you for the discussion and for the personalities, not for the board games.
I
Board
tend
games
to agree.
is in different place.
This is true.
Anyway, thank you for joining and bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find this podcast from SoundCloud with username Mitä pelataan. You can also find the podcast from Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Should be in Amazon Podcasts also at some point, and it should be found anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can find me from Instagram and Twitter with username Mitä pelataan. There's a page in Facebook, Mitä pelata, and you can just search by Mitä pelataan and you should find me from many places. I have a blog, mitapelataan.wordpress.com, where you can find information about this channel and all the links to related media. You should be able to find me from YouTube as well by searching Mitä pelataan. You can send me email to mitapelataan@gmail.com. There's also a guild in Boardgame Geek, number 3321. Interact in any way you can, comment anything, up to you, but interact with me please. And if you listen this far, please leave a review, subscribe so that people find out about this podcast. And one more time, thank you for listening and bye bye. The music used in this series was Nightwalker by Sentient Pulse. Thank you for that.